December 31st, 1944, 25,000 feet above Hamburg, Germany. The sky is trying to kill them. Black clouds of flak, German anti-aircraft fire, erupt around the B-17 bomber Little Skipper like deadly fireworks. Each explosion is close enough to shake the plane, close enough to rattle every bolt, close enough to kill. Inside the freezing cockpit, Second Lieutenant Glenn Rojon grips the controls with white knuckles. His co-pilot, William Leake, wipes frost off the window and squints through the chaos. "Stay tight," Rojon mutters, "almost there." But then, a blinding flash erupts ahead of them. A B-17 in the lead squadron takes a direct hit from flak. The blast lights up the sky like lightning. Leake's voice cracks. "Jesus, look at that!" The damaged bomber lurches sideways and slams directly into another B-17 beside it. Two massive aircraft lock together in a grotesque embrace. Fire, metal, screaming engines. They spin downward toward the burning city below. 20 men. Gone. Just like that. Rojon forces himself to look away. They still have a mission, still have bombs, still have a job to do. Another explosion rocks Little Skipper. Shrapnel tears across the fuselage like a fistful of nails thrown at sheet metal. From the ball turret, a tiny glass bubble hanging beneath the plane, Sergeant Edward Jr. Blackford yelps into the intercom. "Turret's hit! I'm okay, but I'm jammed! Can't rotate!" Rojon's jaw tightens. There's nothing he can do except keep the plane steady. Below them, the target appears. Hamburg's dockyards. Smoke, cranes, fuel tanks lining the river. "Bomb bay doors, open!" Rojon commands. The massive doors beneath the plane yawn apart. Icy wind screams through the fuselage. The bombs drop. The plane lurches upward, suddenly lighter. "Bombs away! Let's get the hell out of here!" But the moment they turn for home, the flak gets worse. It's like the entire city is shooting at them at once. Rojon leans forward, fighting the controls. Just 30 more seconds. 30 seconds, and we're clear. Then Leake sees it. A shadow rising through the smoke. Something big. Something wrong. "Glenn, something's coming up at us." At first it looks like debris, maybe a piece of wreckage from one of the bombers that just went down. But it's not debris. It's a B-17, a full-sized flying fortress climbing through the flak, with no pilot, no crew, just a ghost plane tumbling upward like a leaf caught in a tornado. The name painted on its nose flashes into view. 9 lives. Rojon doesn't have time to shout, doesn't have time to dive, doesn't even have time to breathe. The dead bomber slams into Little Skipper with a deafening metallic howl. The world goes white, and then everything starts falling. The impact is like a car crash at 200 miles per hour. Rojon's helmet smashes into the side window. Leake is nearly thrown from his seat. A grinding, shrieking roar of metal on metal drowns out everything. The engines, the wind, even their own thoughts. For several terrible seconds, Little Skipper isn't flying. It's tumbling, spinning, shuddering like a dying animal. Rojon gasps for air. What the hell just happened? But deep down, he already knows. The pilotless B-17, 9 lives, didn't just hit them. It landed on top of them. The rogue bomber is now sitting directly on Little Skipper's back, its fuselage crushed against their spine, its wings draped over theirs like a dying bird. 2 4-engine bombers, fused together, still in the air. Here's where it gets insane. They should be dead. Physics says they should be tumbling toward the ground in a ball of fire, but somehow they're not. The intercom erupts in panicked voices. "Waist section's jammed. Fire on number 3 engine. Ammo's cooking off up there. Ball turret's stuck. I'm still stuck. God help me." Rojon fights the controls with both hands. The yoke feels like it's trying to tear itself free. The plane refuses to respond. Leake slams switches, kills the burning engine, tries to redistribute power. Come on, give us something." For a moment, nothing, and then a faint lift. Just barely. Like the fused bombers are gasping back to life. Rojon squints out the side window. Above him, way too close, he can see the belly of 9 lives, riddled with holes, leaking fire and smoke. Its cockpit blown open. No crew, no movement, nothing but shattered glass. It's a dead ship strapped to a living one. "Glenn," Leake's voice is quiet, almost disbelieving. "We're carrying her." Rojon doesn't look away from the horizon. "I know. Below them, trapped in the ball turret, Junior Blackford is whispering into the intercom. You can hear him breathing, fast, panicked, trying not to choke. "If this thing goes down, tell my mother I—" Static cuts him off. Another explosion rocks the aircraft as ammunition inside 9 Lives begins to cook off, sending sparks and shockwaves through both planes. The waist gunners are shouting now, "We gotta bail! We gotta bail out now!" Rojan doesn't answer. Not yet. He's watching the ground slide past below them, Hamburg falling away, the horizon leveling. They're not tumbling anymore. They're flying, terribly, barely, but flying. Leek notices it too. "Glenn, how long can we keep this up?" Rojan checks the gauges. Half work, half don't. "Long enough." "Long enough for what?" Rojan takes a slow breath. "To get the boys out." Leek stares at him, at the instruments, at the fire crawling across the upper wing, at the dead bomber welded to their back like a tombstone with propellers. "You're serious?" Rojan nods, because there's no other choice. He clicks the intercom, forcing his voice steady. "Everyone stand by. We're going to try to get over friendly territory. Prepare to bail out on my command." A long pause, then a shaky voice. "Sir, can we make it?" Rojan doesn't lie. "We're going to try." That's all a bomber crew ever needs to hear. But before anyone can respond, Leek sees something that makes his blood run cold. "Glenn, look." A new fire, crawling across the upper wing, feeding on fuel pouring from both bombers. If it reaches the main tanks, they won't just crash, they'll explode. Rojan exhales slowly. Now it's a race, not to survive, but to save the men who still can. Flames ripple across 9 Lives like glowing veins. Every few seconds, another muffled whump pulses through the aircraft as leftover ammunition explodes inside the dead bomber. Each tremor shakes the cockpit. Each tremor is a reminder. This flying coffin is coming apart. Rojan wipes sweat and frost from his forehead. "We lose that wing route. We're done." Leek checks the altimeter. They're sinking, slowly, unevenly, like a wounded animal limping toward the ground. Below them, Junior Blackford's breathing grows harsher over the intercom. He's still stuck, still trapped. If the plane breaks apart, he goes with it. "Junior," Rojan says into the mic, "you hold on. We're taking her inland. We're going to give you a chance." A long pause. Then, "I trust you, sir." Those 4 words hit harder than any flak burst. Leek looks down at the map on his kneeboard. The nearest Allied-controlled territory is barely within reach, and that's assuming the 2-ton dead weight on their back doesn't rip them from the sky first. "Glenn, even if we make it over land, how do we get everyone out? They can't bail while this thing's riding us." Rojan tightens his grip. "We'll get low, slow her down, let them jump clean." Another explosion shakes the cockpit, this one louder. The upper fuselage spits out glowing debris as an ammo box inside 9 Lives erupts. Leek flinches. "Jesus, she's coming apart up there." Pieces of the ghost bomber flutter past the cockpit like burning leaves. Fabric, metal, wiring. They drift downward toward the fields below. Every piece that falls makes little Skipper jerk and sway. Rojan steadies the controls, wrists aching. The plane isn't responding. It's fighting him. The radio crackles. "Pilot, this is the waist. The upper bomber's sagging onto us. It's crushing the spine." The men in back can hear the metal bending above their heads, can feel it. One wrong move. Rojan cuts them off. "Stay clear of the center beam. Brace near the exits. We'll call the jump." In the tail section, the gunner stares at the warped ceiling. He knows what it means. They all do. The bending spine is about to collapse, and when it does, both bombers will fold like cards. Leek double-checks the gauges, fuel pressure dropping, hydraulics whining, oil temperature spiking. "Glenn, she's dying." Rojan doesn't argue. His jaw is set like iron. Not before the boys are out. The horizon tilts again, but Rojan catches it, forcing the nightmare back to level. Fire now crawls across the left wing of 9 Lives, reaching toward Little Skipper's own fuel tanks. They don't have minutes, they have seconds. Rojan scans the ground, flat fields, patches of forest, a gray river snaking through winter soil. "Bill," he says, eyes searching for a safe drop zone. "Tell them to stand by." Leek flips the intercom switch, voice shaking. "Crew, prepare to bail out on the pilot's command. Do not jump early. Wait for the count." The waist gunner replies instantly, Sir, what about you two? Leek doesn't answer. He can't, because they both know. If the pilots let go of the controls, even for a second, this thing rolls over and tears itself apart. Someone has to stay. Someone has to ride it down. Another explosion rocks them. Fire licks across the cockpit roof. The dead bomber groans as its tail section cracks, sagging lower. Time is running out. Rojan scans the farmland passing beneath them. Just a little farther. Just 30 more seconds. Just enough to give his men a real shot at life. Then, through the smoke, he sees it. A clearing. Open ground. Far from any German guns. This is it. He leans toward Leek. We drop them now, but before he can give the order, something massive shifts above them. The entire upper bomber slides forward with a sickening metallic scream. The cockpit goes dark. For one heartbeat, everything disappears. The cockpit plunges into darkness as the hulking corpse of 9 lives shifts forward, smothering the canopy like a collapsing roof. Sparks shower past the windows. Metal screams so loud it's almost alive. Rojan reacts on instinct. He yanks the yoke back, bracing with both legs as the controls lock up under the massive new load. Come on! Come on! Hold together! Leek slams his fist into the panel, trying to shock power back into the instruments. Light flickers, the horizon returns, slanted, blurred, but visible. They're dropping faster now, way too fast. The upper bomber is sliding toward the nose, crushing Little Skipper's forward spine. The view through the canopy shrinks to a narrow slit beneath a wall of burning aluminum. Leek exhales sharply. Glenn, we're out of sky. Rojan doesn't argue. The plane is dying beneath them, one tortured second at a time. He clicks the intercom. No more time for reassurance. No more time for calm words. His voice is raw, urgent, stripped to the bone. All crew, jump, repeat, jump now! Chaos erupts behind them. Harnesses unclip. Boots slam against metal. The waist gunners shove each other toward the exits, fighting the gale ripping through the fuselage. The tail gunner shouts, "Go, go, move!" One by one, the men hurl themselves into the sky, into the freezing wind, into the thin hope of survival. 10 men leap into the unknown. Inside the ball turret, Junior Blackford's voice cracks over the headset. "Sir, I'm still stuck. I can't get out." Rojan closes his eyes. He can feel the sweat inside his gloves, feel the dead weight of 9 lives crushing them lower. "Junior," he whispers, "keep talking to me. We're going to buy you every second we can." Below, the young gunner tries. He grunts, pushes, claws at the jammed mechanism, but the steel around him is warped, bent from the first impact. "Sir, it won't move. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." A sound no crew ever wants to hear breaks over the intercom, a choked sob. Leek forces his voice steady. "Junior, listen, we heard you, we know. Just hold on tight. You hear me? Hold on." One of the waist gunners hesitates at the open hatch, shouting back toward the cockpit. "Lieutenants, you two next." Rojan shakes his head. "Get out," he barks. "That's an order." The gunner curses, furious, helpless, then vanishes into the sky. Another gust hammers the fused bombers. The upper fortress groans like a dying animal as its tail finally snaps free, tumbling past the cockpit in a burning spiral. The entire ship shudders, controls lock, smoke floods the nose. Leek stares at the altimeter. Glenn, there's no way she stays level once the structure gives. Rojan keeps his hands on the trembling yoke. "I know. Then we need to go, right now." Rojan doesn't answer. His eyes drift to the fire, the fractured spine, the groaning metal above. Finally, he turns to Leek. "If we jump, the plane rolls. Junior dies instantly." Leek's jaw tightens. "You're saying we ride it down?" Rojan nods once. Leek looks at him, really looks at him. Snow glare in his eyes, soot on his cheek. A man frozen between duty and death. After a long moment, he nods back. "Then we ride it together." Another explosion rocks the bombers. Shrapnel tears past the cockpit. A new fire erupts on the starboard side. There's no time left. Rojan clicks the intercom one final time. "Crew, if you can hear me, Godspeed." Wind howls through the empty fuselage behind them. 10 men have jumped, 10 chances at life. The cockpit glows orange as flames creep closer. Leek tightens his harness. "Glenn, if we're going in, Let's make sure Junior's got a fighting chance. Rojan grips the controls like they're the last solid thing in the world. Hold on, we're putting her down in that field. But as he banks the fused bomber, as the Earth rushes up, a new vibration buzzes through the frame. Something enormous is breaking free above them. It starts as a tremor, a rattling in the overhead beams, like distant thunder rolling through metal. Then it grows. Louder. Deeper. A grinding roar that shakes the entire cockpit. Leek's eyes snap upward. Glenn, the upper fuselage. Before he can finish, a massive section of 9 lives shears loose with a metallic shriek. The tail, the midsection, whole chunks of the ghost bomber peel off and spiral downward, trailing fire. The sudden loss of weight jerks little Skipper violently upward, then slams the nose down. The yoke bucks in Rojan's hands. He fights it with everything he's got. The wounded Fortress plunges in a steep dive. Air screams past the cockpit. The ground swells in the windows. Fields, hedgerows, a frozen creek flashing closer by the second. Leek's voice cracks. Pull her up! Pull her up! Rojan braces his boots and hauls back. The wrecked bomber groans. The metal protests, but the nose twitches upward, just a few degrees, just enough. Below their feet, Junior Blackford whispers into the intercom, "Still here, still here." A terrible truth hangs in the air. The ball turret is too low. If the plane belly lands, the turret takes the first impact. So Rojan aims for something softer, a snow-covered embankment beyond the frozen creek. If he hits the slope at the right angle, if the frame absorbs the force, if the turret doesn't shear off, it's 1,000-to-1 shot. But it's all they have. Wind claws through gaps in the canopy. Snowflakes sting Rojan's eyes. "Hold on!" he shouts. The ground rises. The burning remains of 9 lives slide off, tumbling behind them in flaming sheets. The Fortress settles into its final dive. Impact is seconds away. Leek grips his seat, knuckles white. Rojan leans forward, every muscle locked. The field rushes toward them. The engines scream. And then, impact. A thunderous, bone-rattling crash tears through the cockpit. The nose smashes into frozen earth, plowing through snow and soil. The starboard wing shears off in an eruption of splintered metal. The fuselage buckles, sliding sideways across the field like a stone skipping on water. The world becomes a blur of white and fire. Rojan's head slams forward. Everything goes dim. The second impact throws him sideways. A third crushes his ribs against the console. Then, silence. No engine roar, no cracking metal, just the soft hiss of snow falling on steaming wreckage. Rojan blinks. The world slowly comes back. Torn canopy, smoke drifting upward, cold air stinging his face. He's alive. He turns. Beside him, William Leek is slumped forward, dazed, bleeding from a cut above his eye, but breathing. "Bill! Bill, you with me?" Leek groans and lifts his head. "Still here. Damn it, still here." Both men struggle to unclip their harnesses. Rojan forces the cracked window open and drops into the snow. The air is eerily quiet. Too quiet. A horrible thought hits him. "Junior." He limps toward the belly of the plane. Smoke curls upward from the broken fuselage. "Junior!" No answer. Rojan drops to his knees and reaches under the shattered midsection. There, a hand, blackened with soot, shaking. Junior Blackford crawls out from the warped ball turret, eyes wide, coughing violently. "Sir! Sir! I made it! I'm out!" Rojan catches him, hauling him clear. Leek stumbles up beside them, staring in disbelief. Junior is alive, bruised, battered, coughing up smoke, but alive. The impossible has happened. All 10 men who bailed out survived their jumps. And now, somehow, the pilots and the trapped gunner have survived the crash. 3 lives that shouldn't exist anymore. 3 men standing in a snowy German field beside the corpse of 2 bombers that defied physics, gravity, and death itself. Rojan looks up at the sky, the same sky that tried to kill them, and exhales a long, trembling breath. They're alive. But their ordeal isn't over, because in the distance, beyond the tree line, there are voices, German voices, coming closer. The field is quiet, until it isn't. The low murmur of voices drifts through the trees. Not English, German. Rojan freezes, hand still gripping Junior's shoulder. Leek turns toward the tree line, squinting through smoke and falling snow. They're coming. The three men, bloody, bruised, shaking, stand in the shadow of the fused wreckage. Steam rises from the torn metal like breath from a dying beast. Rojan steadies Junior, who's swaying on his feet. Easy. Stay with us? Junior nods, still coughing. His eyes dart toward the forest. Sir, do we run? Rojan shakes his head. Nowhere to run. Leek wipes blood from his forehead and gives a grim half-smile. We cheated death once already. Let's not push our luck. The voices grow louder. Boots crunch over frozen leaves. German soldiers emerge from the trees, rifles raised, breath clouding in the cold air, eyes wide with shock. They stare. Two B-17 flying fortresses lie fused together in the snow, frames twisted like colossal carcasses locked in final battle. Smoke drifts upward, wings snapped, engines scattered across the field like fallen giants. Even the Germans can't help it. A few mutter among themselves, pointing, incredulous. One soldier lowers his rifle slightly and says something in astonished German. Zwei, zusam, unglaublich. Two, together, unbelievable. Rojan raises his hands slowly. Leek does the same. Junior follows, wheezing. A sergeant steps forward, young, barely older than Junior, scarf wrapped to his nose. He eyes the three Americans, then the burning wreck, then back. What happened? He asks in broken English. Rojan exchanges a look with Leek. They both let out a breath that almost turns into a laugh. Long story, the German sergeant gestures with his rifle, not threatening, directing. Come. Medicine? Warm. The men comply. Even if they wanted to resist, they couldn't. The crash drained everything. But as they walk toward the tree line, Junior looks back over his shoulder. The remains of little Skipper and 9 lives sit fused in the snow like a monument, a twisted sculpture of aluminum and fire. Proof that the impossible sometimes refuses to stay impossible. Leek notices him staring. Hell of a sight, isn't it? Junior swallows hard. Sir, I thought I was dead. I really thought. He stops, voice breaking. Rojan gently pats his shoulder. You weren't alone down there. We weren't leaving you. Junior nods. Tears freeze on his lashes. As the Germans lead them along a narrow path through the woods, the adrenaline fades. Pain creeps in. Cold tightens around their bones. The realization sinks in. They survived the sky. But now they're prisoners in enemy territory. For the first time since the collision, Leek's voice shakes, not from fear, but from awe. Glenn, how the hell are we still alive? Rojan doesn't answer right away. He looks up at the gray winter sky. After a long silence, he finally says, because we stayed together. Then, after a beat, and because fate wasn't done with us yet. Behind them, flames crackle. Snow continues to fall. The wreck settles into stillness. Somewhere out there, 10 parachutes drifted safely to the ground. 10 men who lived because 2 pilots refused to let go. And now, the 3 survivors walk deeper into the forest. Toward captivity, toward uncertainty, but alive, against all odds, alive. The march through the winter forest feels endless. Every breath stings, every step aches, but none of them complain, not after what they just survived. The German soldiers escort the 3 airmen to a small farmhouse, a field outpost. Inside, a stove radiates warmth. The smell of boiled cabbage hangs in the air. A medic examines Junior's bruised ribs and smoke-damaged lungs. He checks the gash on Leek's forehead. He wraps Rojan's sprained wrist. One young German private keeps staring at them, wide-eyed, uncertain. Finally, he blurts out, You flew that? Rojan nods. The private looks shaken, not angry, not triumphant, just shaken, as if he's looking at ghosts still wrapped in flesh. Because in a way, he is. The 3 men end up in a prisoner of war camp. Not the worst, but far from safe. Food is scarce. Cold is constant. Hope is something they ration like bread. But the story spreads. First among the German guards, then among the prisoners, then across the entire camp. 2 flying fortresses, locked together, still flying. Pilots who rode them down like knights strapped to falling giants. Rojan and Leek never boast about it. Junior rarely speaks of the turret. But the other American prisoners look at them differently, like men who touched the boundary of life and death and came back carrying its secrets. Sometimes, late at night, Leek asks the same question. What kept her up, Glenn? What really kept us in the air? Rojan never pretends to know. Maybe luck, maybe engineering. Then, after a quiet breath, maybe we just weren't meant to die that day. The war turns. The front shifts. One morning the prisoners wake to find their German captors gone, vanished into the night. American forces arrive days later. The men of Little Skipper reunite one by one, each with a different story of how they landed, evaded, or surrendered. 10 men saved by the decision of 2 pilots who refused to abandon the sky. When Junior Blackford emerges from the crowd, walking with a slight limp but breathing, very much alive, the crew surrounds him like a returning brother. Rojan just smiles. Told you we'd buy you the time. Junior doesn't answer. He simply hugs him, tight, shaking, grateful. Glenn Rojan and William Leek return home. They marry, raise children, build quiet lives far from the thunder of engines and the glare of flak. Neither man ever calls himself a hero. Neither speaks much about the day 2 B-17s became one in the sky. But historians take note. Engineers scratch their heads. Aviation experts call it one of the most extraordinary acts of flying ever accomplished. Not because the men saved themselves, but because they saved everyone else. The U.S. Army Air Forces recorded the event in dry, unemotional language. Pilot executed controlled landing with 2 aircraft merged in mid-air. What the report doesn't mention: the fear, the pain, the impossible decisions, the trapped gunner whispering final prayers, the pilots refusing to jump, the inimagine that snowy German field one last time, the fused hulks of Little Skipper and 9 lives lying broken in the snow, flames flickering weakly, snow falling softly over twisted metal, a faint trail of footprints leading away through the pines. 3 men, alive when physics, logic, and fate all said they shouldn't be. And somewhere overhead, the sky itself looks down, wondering how in the world they ever returned from it. Describable willpower required to hold a dying machine steady long enough to give 10 men a chance at life. This wasn't just a crash, it was a miracle written in aluminum and fire, a moment when courage bent the laws of flight, when 2 pilots refused to let death take their crew. And against every possible odd,